fellow collectors, and welcome to Long's Toys. Today we are taking a look at two Ultra action figures from the Ultraman franchise. We have Ultraman himself, and then we have Ultraman Ace. These came out a few months ago. At this point I'm working through the backlog, but very excited to take a look at these two. They've kind of started to go back and do some of the older Ultraman characters, seeing as how they're kind of caught up with the current show. We're kind of in between shows until Blazer shows up. So yeah, very excited for this. Getting Ultraman himself, of course, and then Ultraman Ace over here. They're the typical kind of Ultra action figures, having the 18 points of articulation, and you can see we have Ultraman battling Bolton here, which we took a look at last time. So just kind of excited to kind of fill out the ranks here with some of these older characters. Also 18 points of articulation over here. Packaging pretty standard, just kind of have the bubble on card here. I don't know why Ultraman's head kind of got dislodged in the packaging here. He's just really excited to look at something on the floor over here. I don't know what it is, but yeah, gonna go ahead and get these two out of the packaging here, and we'll take a closer look. So here they are out of the packaging. I think both of them look pretty good. It's kind of funny, you can tell that they molded Ultraman out of red and then painted on the silver, while with Ace they molded him out of gray and painted on the red. So I guess it's just that whichever was the more prominent color, that's what they molded the actual toy out of. But Ultraman's kind of a mix of, you know, gray plastic and red plastic, so they tried to match the silver with the gray as best they could. It's not too bad. I think they did a pretty decent job with it. Pretty nice job with the head sculpt here. Classic Ultraman. Looking very nice. A lot of silver paint there. Nice silver paint here on the front. A little bit of metallic blue there for the color timer. And then you can see here that they kind of molded this shoulder piece out of gray plastic and painted the red. Then molded this piece out of red and painted on the silver. So it's a little jarring, you know, the gray and the silver right next to each other. They don't quite match. And then down here they molded the forearm out of the gray plastic again. So you kind of go from gray, red to gray. But I think it works well enough. Just that silver to gray is a little jarring. But you do have nice silver here on the chest. Again, a little bit of silver here on the thigh. And then we're back to the gray plastic here for the leg. Articulation-wise, very standard for this line. They both have exactly the same articulation. But you have kind of a hinge here at the neck, as well as a ball joint kind of at the base of the skull. So you can look side to side, you can look up, you can look down. Can't really tilt, maybe side to side very minorly, but not much. You have a hinge and a rotation, so you can go all the way out to the side there with the arm, and then you can rotate the arms all the way around. Bicep swivel, you have a pretty much 90, maybe slightly over 90 degree there at the elbow. You have a wrist swivel, and then they're still doing these, which I do not like when they have the hands just have the two sets of fingers that can move. They're just not really great for grasping anything or posing. I wish they would get away from these hands. I feel like this is stuff they used to do 10 years ago, and they're still doing it for this line. I guess just for consistency, but I don't really care for it. Nothing in the waist, an abdomen, nothing like that. You have a kick to the front, and then a hinge out to the side here for the hips. So kick out about that far, kick forward pretty far, but there's nothing in the thigh. So there's no waist and no thigh swivel. Again, pretty much common for this line, but, you know, would be nice to have. You have a little over 90 degrees there in the knee, and then you have a ball joint down here in the ankle, so you can get some good poses with that. But yeah, it's a pretty nice little representation. And these figures are, like I said, probably somewhere between 5.5 and 6 inches tall. And I do appreciate the line, but it's gotten to the point now where some of the Candy Toy stuff they're doing is a little bit better articulated. But because Ultraman is always larger than everything, it doesn't really make sense for me to have Ultraman be the same scale as Kamen Rider or Sentai. So, I mean, there are a few more recent Ultraman that have been able to have, like, street-level size fights and things like that. But for the most part, he's a larger hero. And these don't even really scale with those, because those would probably come up to about here. So it's really just if you just want some representation of Ultraman on your shelf, not really going to scale with pretty much any other toy line, but it does look pretty good. And these usually run about $20 a piece, which would be nice if some of them, you know, came with accessories. And they've started to incorporate that as well, some of the newer releases where it makes sense, characters that actually have weapons, because honestly, Ultraman, not really known for his arsenal throughout the franchise, but for the few that it does make sense, they've started to include some weapons, and those actually look pretty good. So over here we have Ace. he looks pretty good. Again, you can see where the paint kind of stops halfway, which is kind of a bummer. He's got no paint whatsoever on the back, which I feel like you don't feel that as bad with Ultraman. One, because we got a little bit of red paint here on the shoulder. But again, because things are molded out of different colored plastic, you don't see that as much. You don't feel it as much. Where over here with Ace, everything was done in the light gray plastic. So from the back, he looks very plain. It would have been nice if they could have sprung. I mean, all they would have had to do is paint this little outline here red. That's really all I would have needed. If the rest of this was blank, I get it. I mean, the red probably comes around here to the back, but I feel like that's a somewhat logical stopping point, and I would have been okay with that, especially because of the knee joint. So you don't want to paint over the knee joint. If they really could have just finished off this little bit right here, I feel like that's all that you really would have needed. But the head looks good. Nice silver paint there for the head. The yellow for the eyes, I think, looks really sharp. Again, a little bit of metallic blue there for the color timer. And again, he's got all the same articulation as Ultraman. Most of these Ultraman Ultra Action figures have the same articulation. So, just to show that off quick. But I do like him. I think he looks good. And like I said, I'm happy that they're getting to some of these older Ultraman characters. And, you know, kind of filling out logical holes in the line. So that one day you might be able to get every Ultraman in this line, in this size class. And that's kind of why I continue with the line. I do ultimately like it. But like I said, it just doesn't really scale with anything, and it is missing a couple key articulation points. But I'm so deep into the line at this point that I'm like, I guess I'll keep going because it's the most complete Ultraman collection I have going, and I don't really want to start all the way over with the, I think it's called the Cho-Do line. Cho being super and Do just because Yudo, Sodo, Shodo, they all have Do on the end. So it's like super dough. But in any case, that line is looking nice, and I am kind of dipping my toes into that line with the next release that's coming out because it has a Blazer figure in it. So I don't know. I kind of don't want to start all the way over again, but at the same time, I think they're better and cheaper figures because, like I said, these are kind of around $20 a piece, which feels like a lot. I feel like if these were sold over here, they'd probably be more like 10 to 15. Just with how basic they are and the fact that they're kind of just using the same mold over and over again. I mean, obviously there are subtle differences mostly in the torsos, but for the most part, you know, you can reuse a lot of these pieces, I think, depending on how complicated the design of the character is that they're doing at the time. But so that's where I'm kind of at. I'm kind of just, I think I'm just in it for the long haul with this line because I've already dedicated so much to it. But I might try out the Candy Toy line just to see how it measures up. But that's a bit of a random, what's what I'm looking for here? Offshoot diatribe. Sorry, I took a left turn there. In any case, back to these figures. They're good. I think they're good. For what they are, I feel like they're a little pricey, but not so pricey that it would preclude me from collecting them still. And I do like that they're getting to some of the older characters here, so I do still like them quite a bit. If you could find them on sale somewhere, I think they're definitely worth checking out. But even at retail price, I think they're reasonable for what they are. I still think they're pretty good. I really don't like the way they do the hands and the fingers. I'm not a huge fan of that. But like I said, it's been that way since the beginning. So I'm assuming they're still just doing it that way for consistency. It is what it is. But again, nice figures. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below. I'd like to hear your opinions on these, but like I said, I feel like the price is just a little bit more. It's kind of creeping up because I think when these started out, they were closer to like 15 a piece. And I know the price of everything's going up, but they're starting to get to the point where I don't know that I still want to keep going. But like I said, I'm so invested in the line that I feel like I have to keep going. So it's kind of a weird conundrum to have. But let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Please like, share, and subscribe. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. And as always, thanks so much for watching.